My name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. Today I want to talk about data privacy and Google's privacy sandbox for Android phones. So Google made an announcement that they're going to be doing away with the way that they do tracking right now for marketing purposes and how they sell their ads. So there are great headwinds around the world with companies that sell advertising, and it creates a third-party risk for companies that have first-party data for them transferring that data to a third party. As a result of the way that marketing works or advertising works on the internet, if a company has data and they transfer it to a third party for a purpose like marketing, those types of transactions are getting a lot more scrutiny from regulators, and also there is responsibility also for the first party data holder when they do that transfer. So what Google is doing is trying to find a better way to replace things like cookies. There's a lot of litigation and court cases going on, especially in Europe, around cookies, and also there's a lot of privacy regulations being passed that are really putting more pressure on companies and more scrutiny around this kind of third-party data transfer. So what Google is doing right now for their Android operating system, first of all, let me just say the Android operating system, just to give you an idea of the scope, 85% of mobile phones use the Android operating system, and 90% of apps on Android operating systems are free. So there's a lot of data that is being shared about individuals that are using these operating systems and phones. And currently, Google does this using their Google Ad ID, called the GAID. So what Google is going to do, instead of having this specific ID that's tied to a device that tracks all the information that like things that people search for and things that they do on their phones, and kind of reselling that in some way for advertisers, they're creating this thing called the privacy sandbox. So the privacy sandbox will be, instead of, well, first of all, they're going to get rid of the GAID and they're going to replace it with kind of these 4 different things, methods to be able to create less asymmetry, I think, in the relationship between consumers and marketers, and then also be able to try to still give marketers some type of information that may be helpful for their marketing. So one part of the sandbox is called topics. So topics will be kind of a list of categories or information that they believe that people may be interested in. So obviously Google may have this information, but they're going to roll it up into kind of topics as opposed to giving more detailed information about specific users. And then they're going to open up more transparency to topics so that individuals can actually change or edit the topics that are listed sort of about them. So that's kind of sort of like what they were trying to do previously with Flock. Then they have Fledge. Oh, I'm sorry. And then topics is also about how marketers find new people who may be interested in their product. So the next one is Fledge. So Fledge is about kind of people who may previously have expressed interest in a particular product before, maybe they had even used a product. So this is a way for Google to help advertisers gain some type of access or visualization to those people without actually having the advertiser retarget the specific individual. So the next one is attribution reporting. So this is really important. So a lot of marketers make money or make more money if they can show that an ad that was shown to someone prompted them to actually make a purchase. So that process is called attribution, which means that the company that showed the ad gets sort of extra points or extra money if they turn people into a customer. So now the way attribution works, with the GAID, attribution could be very specific. Like, John, who lives on Main Street, bought a red pickup truck, right? So as a result, then we get attributed for that ad. So instead of being able to give that detailed information about a user, you may just know, someone who lives in Cincinnati, bought a red pickup truck or something like that. So that's kind of one thing. And then also the last thing is called SDK runtime. So basically what Google is going to do is try to create like a firewall on people's phones so that if marketers access information, let's say this pickup truck example, they aren't able to glean other details about a user based on the stuff that's on their phone. So they said basically they're trying to cut off kind of that view of other things that are on people's phones. So this is a really big deal. This is going to definitely change the way that advertising is done programmatically on the internet. I think companies that currently use the current methods in which people use ads, that has to change. So companies that can't adjust will make less money or will not be in business because what Google is doing is kind of narrowing the scope as opposed to in the past where marketers could sort of collect any and as much data as they possibly could. Now they're going to be restricted and limited to kind of knowing what they want to look at first before they kind of get served up this information. So I think what's going to happen is, for companies like Facebook, this change will impact their bottom line. It probably won't be as impactful as it was with the Apple app transparency. And just to give you sort of a comparison or a scope of between Apple and Android, a Apple user in terms of marketing is considered, let's see, you would need 10 Android users to equal the marketing value of a Apple user. So it's still a big deal, even though we know that that's kind of the statistic. And then, of course, most people, the majority of phones use that Android operating system. So it will take a hit. So big companies probably don't have to worry. Obviously, they're going to probably lose some profits because they won't have the level of granularity that they once had without sort of creating a first-party relationship with the organization. But I think from a consumer perspective, what we're going to see is more companies over the next 2 years, because in 2 years, that's when Google is going to implement this. They're going to start to try to find ways to entice people to create first-party relationships with them. So that means giveaways, sweepstakes, anything that they can do to try to kind of create a first-party relationship. And also companies are going to try to retain and get as much data as they can between now and the next 2 years because everything is definitely changing. So I think advertisers need to figure out what's kind of the best way forward. But things are definitely going to change and going to be more restricted in terms of how marketing data is being collected in the future. That's it. Thank you.